With a girl's unconventional lifestyle, men deem her a fantasy whereas women ridicule her. One day in Saint-Tropez, a wealthy businessman, Eric Carradine, visits Juliette Hardy while she's sunbathing. He informs her he's brought the car he promised, eliciting an excited response from the girl. However, when Juliette stands up to see it, Carradine shows her a toy car. Despite his stunt, Juliette remains cool and even compliments the toy. Carradine assures her she'll have one someday, stressing that her allure will allow her to get anything she wishes. At that moment, Juliette's foster mother, Mrs. Mora, appears and reprimands her for fooling around instead of working. Juliette quickly dresses up and heads inside the house to prepare for work. Carradine apologizes to the woman, emphasizing he's the reason she's late for work. Therefore, he offers to compensate for the trouble he's caused. Mrs. Mora refuses, believing the businessman is after the honor of their house. Meanwhile, inside their residence, the matriarch catches her husband, Mr. Mora, peeping at Juliette while she's changing. As she reprimands him, Juliette laughs at them, further angering her. Provoked, Mrs. Mora informs Juliette of her negative reputation in their town, specifically her impoliteness and lousy performance at work. Instead of addressing it, Juliette hurriedly leaves for work. Later in Carradine's office, the businessman learns that their project to build a casino and hotel in Saint-Tropez has a problem. The Tardo's shipyard is within the vicinity of the land they wish to acquire. Moreover, the eldest son of the family is against selling the land. Hence, Carradine's secretary advises him to talk to him since he'll be home for the weekend. Speaking of the eldest Tardo son, Antoine unexpectedly meets Juliette on a bus. With their reunion, the pair catch up, but there's still an undeniable attraction between them. Before leaving for a stop, Antoine invites Juliette to dance tonight. Following their encounter, Antoine converses with Carradine, wherein the businessman expresses his desire to buy their shipyard. Antoine refuses since his family lives there, leading Carradine to offer 4 million francs in exchange for their land. For him, the amount is insufficient, so he remains firm. Carradine reminds him their business is declining, hence he's giving him 2 months to decide. After Antoine leaves, Carradine's secretary suggests he raise the offer, believing the Tardo family will give in. However, Carradine is baffled by his words since offering a larger amount for their small shipyard would be a waste. His secretary clarifies that they might get in trouble once the people learn of Carradine's casino project in their town. Despite his sound opinion, Carradine dismisses him. During the dance, Antoine expresses his regret for waiting a year before pursuing Juliette. He explains that their age gap hinders their budding romance. Moving on, he requests her to come with him to Toulon. He asks her if she'll accept, and Juliette answers she'll do anything he wants. Upon hearing this, Antoine orders her to kiss him, and she complies. Unbeknownst to the couple, Antoine's younger brother Michel witnesses their intimacy, sparking his jealousy. Their youngest sibling, Christian, invites him to find a partner to dance with to alleviate his mood. When Antoine becomes aggressive with Juliette, she stops him and reminds him they'll be the target of the public scrutiny. He acknowledges her words, so he tells her to meet him in the harbor. Immediately, Juliette leaves, but she heads to the bathroom to freshen up. In the middle of her grooming, she overhears that Antoine has also entered the bathroom and converses with another man. She learns that Antoine only wants to sleep with her, and he never intends to take her with him to Toulon. Out of anger, Juliette stops out of the club and goes to Carradine's yacht. The businessman is glad for her sudden visit and proceeds to introduce her to his guests, Mr. and Mrs. Vigie-Lefranc. Moments later, Carradine offers Juliette a cocktail, but the girl declines. He observes that she's staring intently at the window. Curious, he looks at it and discovers she's watching Antoine outside. Suddenly, Mr. Vigie-Lefranc throws a dart, which lands on Juliette's hand, injuring her. Concerned, Carradine leads the girl into a room to treat her wound. Mr. Vigie-Lefranc notices the businessman's displeasure, leading him to apologize profusely. Inside the room, Juliette teases Carradine by requesting him to kiss her wound. The man gladly complies, but she quickly withdraws her hand from his. Carradine is confused by Juliette's actions, so he asks her why she's visited him. Annoyed, Juliette evades his question, but she inquires Carradine if Antoine's still outside. Carradine looks out the window and confirms Antoine's still in the harbor. Due to her tantrums, Carradine senses that Juliette doesn't visit him willingly, so he orders her to leave. Outside, Juliette meets Antoine, but she simply passes by, pretending Pretending she's nonchalant, Juliette rides her bike when Antoine trips her, leading them to kiss. Antoine invites her to spend the night with him, but she refuses. Back home, Mrs. Mora discovers Juliette has gone home late. Tired of her lousy behavior and promiscuity, the woman confronts Juliette and informs her they'll return her to the orphanage. The next day, Juliette releases her pets in the field since she's going to leave for too long with Antoine. Sadly, Antoine's bus simply passes her by as the man's intentions toward her aren't sincere. Because of this, Juliette searches for her pets as her plan to leave their town is ruined. Later that day, Juliette poorly assisted a customer in the bookstore, angering the woman. She reprimands Juliette for her behavior, but the girl is indifferent about it. It turns out that the welfare board assigned the woman to Juliette's case. She threatens Juliette that she'll report her disgracefulness to the board, but the girl is unfazed. Meanwhile, in Carradine's yacht, his secretary hypothesizes that Juliette will return to the orphanage since he's witnessed the board's representative roaming around the harbor. Carradine wishes to prevent this, so his secretary recommends that Juliette get married or adopted again. One day, Carradine visits Antoine to negotiate with him about buying their shipyard. Suddenly, Mrs. Tardeau appears and informs Antoine about Juliette's impending return to the orphanage. Michel overhears this, so he asks Carradine what possible solution they can implement to prevent Juliette's departure. Carradine informs him that someone has to marry her, sparking hope in Michel. Wanting to take advantage of the situation, Michel accompanies Juliette on her way home and proposes to her. At first, Juliette refuses, explaining that he doesn't know her. Still, Michel remains persistent and shows his sincerity in marrying her. Thus, in the end, Juliette accepts his proposal. Of course, the couple receives their relatives' disapproval because of Juliette's negative reputation. Despite such a challenge, Juliette and Michel proceed with their wedding. After the ceremony, the couple accompanies Antoine to the bus stop. Though Juliette and Antoine have a lingering attraction, the man leaves out of respect for his brother's wedding. On their way home, the couple stumbles upon Lucienne and her boyfriend René. René begins to tease Michel, telling him he should get used to sharing his wife. Angered by his insult, Michel punches René, leading the pair to engage in a physical altercation. Since Michel isn't used to fighting, he loses to René, and Juliette quickly checks on him. The girl is surprised by his braveness, but Lucienne thinks he's a fool for fighting her boyfriend. Shortly after, in the couple's room, Juliette helps Michel freshen up, and she compliments his appearance. Juliette can't resist the temptation, so she initiates the consummation of their marriage. After the deed, Michel wonders if she'll be able to love him, but she gives him a vague answer. Juliette emphasizes that she loves making love to him. A few days later, since the couple's marriage, Juliette has a rough relationship with her mother-in-law. It's further tested when she requests 100 francs from Michel, but he doesn't have the amount with him. Therefore, he borrows money from her mother, much to the woman's dismay. Though she's upset, the woman still gives her the money, but a reprimand follows. She orders Juliette to find work, but the girl teasingly informs her that she's working at Being Happy. Following her conversation with Mrs. Tardeau, Juliette heads to the bar to listen to the jukebox. Carradine appears from behind her as the man has been craving her presence. He asks if she's happy with her married life, and Juliette confirms. However, Carradine doubts it, knowing the girl isn't suited for a married life. Juliette stresses she isn't lying, but Carradine's unconvinced. He repeats his question, urging the girl to admit she's trying. Upon hearing her response, he deems Michel a fool for marrying a girl like her. He believes that he should find money to support her, making her wonder how. Carradine informs her about the Tardeau family's refusal to accept his offer to buy their shipyard. For Juliette, the family's refusals justified, especially since their ownership of the shipyard allows them to prevent feeling poor. Carradine's impressed with her perspective and proceeds to reveal his new proposition for the Tardeau family. He plans to offer them a 30% stake, making Juliette ecstatic. Through this, she believes they'll become rich, and she can even purchase her dream car. The next day, Antoine accepts Carradine's proposition, but with one condition. He wants to manage the shipyard to protect their investment. Carradine accepts and urges Antoine to sign the contract quickly. After the deal, Michel rushes to Juliette and informs her that they've signed the contract, and therefore they're now rich. Moreover, Antoine will be coming home as he'll manage the shipyard. Juliette can't fathom the thought of him returning, so she abruptly leaves. She visits Carradine and pleads with him to prevent Antoine from returning home. Unfortunately, the businessman can't grant her wish as the contracts have been signed. On the day of Antoine's return, Juliette ensures that the man is uncomfortable with her presence. She intentionally openly displays her affection with Michel and even invites him to their room to make love. Inside the couple's room, Antoine visits them to voice his suspicions that their foreman is stealing funds. His mood turns sour when he notices Juliette lying bare under the sheets. Immediately, he bids them farewell. Juliette approaches Michel and the couple shares a tender moment. Their laughter echoes through the room next door, bothering Antoine. That night, Michel awakens alone in bed, so he searches for his wife. He locates her near the store, fueling his concern. Michel checks on Juliette, and the girl informs him she's beginning to love him. Yet she can't stop herself from being scared as she believes it's difficult to be happy. To calm her fears, she begs Michel to assure her he loves her, and the man complies. The next day at the shipyard, Carradine encounters a gunman, alarming him. He sprints inside the shipyard's office and discovers Juliette is the culprit. The businessman confronts her, but Juliette reasons she's simply shooting the bottles outside. However, Carradine is disturbed since she's using the gun while he's passing by. Juliette tells him she didn't notice him. Despite her alibis, the businessman remains skeptical and threatens to punish her. Instead of apologizing, Juliette provokes Carradine, leading the businessman to be aggressive toward her. Antoine hears the commotion and asks Carradine what's transpired between them. Carradine recounts Juliette's mischievousness, and Michel softly reprimands his wife. Since Antoine wants to talk with Carradine, he orders his brother to continue their conversation outside. Once the couple are away, the businessman asks Antoine about his opinion on whether his brother's marriage will last. Antoine doesn't provide him with an answer, but he chastises his employer for being nosy in their family affairs. The following morning, Juliette wanders to Antoine's bedroom and discovers that he's kept their wedding photo. As she lays on his bed, Juliette revels in Antoine's scent. Unbeknownst to her, he's just outside the room. He tries to kick her out of the room, but Juliette's sensuality attracts him to her. Upon lying down, Juliette leaves abruptly. One day, Juliette learns that Michel will head to Marseille to run some errands for their business. Juliette pleads with her husband to take her to the city, but he believes she'll be bored there. Still, the girl insists she'll come, so Michel orders her to be ready at 6 a.m. since they'll be taking the first bus. The next morning, Michel excitedly awakens Juliette for their trip to Marseille, but she's still sleepy. He asks her if she's planning to accompany him, but she declines. Therefore, Michel simply kisses her and leaves for the city. Later in the afternoon, Antoine arrives at the shipyard to check on his colleague's progress. He notices that their small boat is missing, so Christian informs him Juliette has boarded it. This revelation angers Antoine, especially since the boat's engine is faulty. Immediately, he inquires about Juliette's possible whereabouts, and Christian informs him she's headed toward the Camarat lighthouse. Without a choice, Antoine leaves to check on the stubborn girl. Shortly after, Antoine locates Juliette stuck in the middle of the ocean since the boat's engine begins to smoke. Antoine swims to Juliette's location and boards the boat. At that moment, the engine explodes, engulfing the boat in flames. To save her, Antoine pushes her off the boat. Afterward, he dives into the water and takes Juliette to the shore. Upon reaching the shore, Antoine loses consciousness due to exhaustion. Juliette approaches the man and simply watches over him. The waves awaken Antoine, but he remains unmoving. This leads Juliette to tease him, so he fights back. Antoine begins to walk home, but Juliette seduces him to make love. Initially, he refuses, but he can't resist her charms. Eventually, he gives in, and the pair becomes intimate. Following their affair, Juliette catches a fever and she summons Christian to accompany her. The boy assures her he'll stay with her until she gets better, much to her delight. During Christian's stay in her room, the boy learns about her affair with Antoine. He believes she's still in love with his brother, but Juliette strongly denies it. In the middle of their conversation, Antoine, alongside Mrs. Tardeau, appears, and they overhear their topic. That day, Michel returns home from the city and happily recounts his travel. However, Antoine is uninterested, which sparks concern in him. He inquires his mother about what happened to his brother, but she doesn't give him an explanation. Instead, she persuades him to leave Juliette due to her infidelity. She promises they'll provide her support if she ever causes trouble, but Michel refuses to answer. The broken-hearted man goes to their bedroom to converse with Juliette, but he discovers that the room is empty. Fueled with concern, Michel leaves to to search for his wife, saddening his mother. Meanwhile, Juliette's on her way to the bar when a car almost runs her over. Because of her fever, Juliette doesn't acknowledge the dangers of what's happened earlier. She heads to the bar instead. After ordering her drink, Juliette sits at a table to wait for Lucien. On the other hand, the man who encountered Juliette earlier informs Antoine about her accident. Antoine is busy with his telephone call, so the man emphasizes he should fetch her at the bar for she appears to be unwell. Later on, Michel enters the office and inquires his brother about Juliette's whereabouts. Antoine informs him that a girl like Juliette must be at the bar. Michel dismisses his insult and turns to leave when Antoine stops him. Resentfully, he orders Michel to forget a promiscuous girl like her, angering Michel. He confronts his brother for insulting Juliette, but Antoine simply reveals he slept with his wife. Since Mrs. Tardieu has already informed them of their affair, Michel remains collected and proceeds to leave. Antoine obstructs his way and recounts his intimacy with Juliette, hoping it'll stop Michel from leaving. Regardless of his words, Michel is firm in searching for his wife. Provoked, Antoine pushes him and declares he'll never let him leave. Unbeknownst to him, Michel grabs the gun from the drawer and threatens to shoot his brother. Immediately, Antoine sprints out of the office and locks the front door. Michel demands to have the key, but Antoine refuses to yield. As a result, the siblings engage in a physical altercation. In the end, Michel overpowers his brother, earning him the key. Shortly after, Michel arrives at the bar and discovers his wife dancing sensually with Carradine as part of the audience. Michel wishes to speak with Juliette, but his wife refuses. Juliette continues to exhibit her dancing, making her bask in ecstasy. On the contrary, Michel suffers from disappointment. He can't take it anymore, so he pulls out the gun, but Carradine approaches to stop him. Overwhelmed, Michel fires the weapon, and the bullet grazes Carradine. Just in time, Antoine arrives, and Carradine orders the man to accompany him. On the other hand, Michel slaps Juliette, but she smiles in response. Finally, her meek husband displays a different behavior. Meanwhile, Antoine drives Carradine to Nice, where his surgeon friend is located. During their travel, the businessman opines that Juliette is made to destroy men, making him afraid. While at it, Carradine orders Antoine to leave Saint-Tropez to give the married couple space. When Antoine tries to resist, Carradine threatens that he'll deal with him. A while later, Michel and Juliette hold hands as they return home.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.